You know what it is. That's right. It's time to talk money with your money nerd and financial coach. Now, tighten those purse strings and open those ears. It's the Money Talk with Tiff podcast.
Hey everyone, I am so excited because I have Elizabeth Husserl on the line, and she's here to talk about the satiation paradigm, which if you're listening, you're probably like, what the heck are you talking about, Tiffany? And that is why we're here. So hey Elizabeth, how are you?
Oh my gosh, Tiff, that is a great entry. Good to be here.
Yes. So let's just dive right in for the audience. First, let's break this all the way down, word by word. What is satiation, if people have never heard of that?
Yeah, so satiation is the feel. Yes, no, satiation. Like think of to be satiated. It's the feeling of being full, but more importantly than full, it's the feeling of being satisfied. And so the satiation paradigm is turning the way that we redefine or that we define wealth on its head and saying, how about instead of just trying to accumulate wealth, I learn how to feel wealthy. And the way to feel wealthy is to learn how to feel satisfied. And what are those strategies, both financial and non-financial strategies, that allow us to feel satisfied in the different areas in our life? And that's how we start to embody wealth instead of just accumulate it.
I love that.
Can I just say one last thing? I love that you're saying because the easiest example around satiation is literally think of food, right? Think of the last nourishing meal you had. Maybe it was a home cooked meal. Maybe it was your favorite meal out. But when you eat something, you're like, that just hit the spot. We close our eyes. We go, we smile. And how that feels so different to a meal that felt like empty calories because you were on the run. You're like looking at your phone while you eat, so you have no idea what you just ate. And that's the difference between accumulating wealth and not really knowing what it felt like versus accumulating wealth and embodying wealth at the same time because you're focused on being satiated. That's the difference.
Yeah, and I'm like, this conversation is already getting me satiated. But to your point, though, Elizabeth, I was reading a book the other day, and in the book, he said it's hard to read the label when you're inside the bottle. And so I equate that to, like you said, we are so busy in the run of the mill, the hamster wheel, whatever the case may be, just trying to make it, trying to get money, trying to save money, whatever it is. And we lose sight of those moments where we can say, oh, like I actually enjoyed this process. So with that being said, how do we start changing that paradigm and making that happen for ourselves?
Yep. Two very simple ways. The first one, Tiff, is to recognize that money and wealth are not the same thing. That's the biggest mistake we create in our financial journey. Having money and having a super clear financial plan is so important. I mean, I do this for a living, but money is different than wealth. Money is a tool and a technology that is a resource that lets us do things, exchange, buy, consume, produce. We could sit here all day and talk about what money can do as a tool, but money isn't wealth. And it's a resource that helps build wealth, but it doesn't define how we experience wealth. And that's the key piece. Wealth is a state of being. And financial stability is an important slice of the pie. Like think of wealth as like a big pie. If you like pie, I love pie, right? And so it's a really important slice of pie that we need to make sure it's organized and tastes good and is satisfying us. But other areas of the pie, for example, physical health, safety, purpose, participation, touch, belonging, leisure, curiosity. I mean, it's based on human needs. So the science of human needs is the bottle, right? That's the actual bottle that we're kind of like drowning in. And if we're like, whoa, there's a lot more ingredients on that ingredient list on the bottle, and maybe I've been too focused on really trying to figure out my money life for whatever reason, right? If your money life is on fire, you do have to focus on it, right? If you're in between jobs, if you can't pay bills, if you just got hit with a big tax bill, we're going into tax season, it's really important that you do get super clear what are the strategies in the financial slice of the pie. But then you also have to lift the gaze and ask yourself, how well am I satisfying myself in these other ingredients? Because that is what's going to give you the state of well-being that creates wealth.
Yes, I love that. And, just personally, with the traveling and stuff that I've done, just seeing how it changed my whole belief about what it means to be happy, what it means to be wealthy. To your point, like for me, I put more emphasis on my health.
Yeah.
When it comes to wealth versus money. And I feel like that has been invaluable for me. So if people are listening, right, because I know we sound like real woo woo right now, like, okay, I hear you. It sounds great, but practically, like, I am, let's say, for instance, struggling, or, I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. How do we start changing our mindset and mind shift to make this change happen?
Yes. And thank you, Tiff, because I didn't say step number 2, which is going to answer this question. I said, I got really into step number 1, right? So thank you. I was like, oh, so I think there's kind of like, so it's not just a mindset. It truly is a different framework. And that's something that I'm often having to clarify. It's not a money mindset. It's really understanding that there's a different framework of wealth, getting super clear around where money relates to it. But a lot of times I tell people, if you're feeling overwhelmed in your financial life right now, because it's just like, oh my God, so many questions and it's so confusing. What I argue is that taking the step out of it, and the way to do it is twofold. You can go onto my website for free and download what I call a money map. It's a wealth mandala, which basically means circle, and it allows you to really get clear on what are these other 12 areas in our life that we need to focus on. Go into it, Tiff, and then you start to color. I love arts and craft. You take this map, print it out, and on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I'm feeling a lot of lack in this area in my life, 10 being I'm feeling really filled in it. So for example, you could take the physical health slice of the pie, Tiff, and be like, oh, maybe I'm feeling like a 9 because I'm actually putting a lot of energy, attention, and resources towards it. And maybe in other areas, you're feeling more like a 2. And when you do this exercise of filling out this money map, this wealth map, what happens is that you start to realize, some areas I actually am doing pretty well on satisfying myself here. I have strategies that work, right? It could be that you're committed to going to the gym, or you have this class that you do, or you're working with a physical trainer, or you're eating well, whatever it is that you do, Tiff, to satisfy your physical health, something's working there. Some areas are feeling lack. It could be financial stability, but a lot of times I see people be like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling lack in touch, right? I'm feeling lack in connection or belonging, right? We're going through a loneliness epidemic. And so it's like, what are these other areas, and how can you first see what's working, right? And be like, these strategies are working here. Is there any way that I can apply the same strategy or similar strategy to the areas that aren't working? And so what happens is that even though sometimes it can feel counterintuitive and everyone feels resistance, right? Because you're like, I just want to figure out the whole money thing. But if you just take a second and look at wealth more holistically and what's working, you can potentially start to spot new opportunities, new ideas, a beginner's mind into coming back to the financial stability part of the pie to be like, okay, how do I address this potentially differently based on other resources and other strategies that are working in my life? And if that feels like a stretch, the simplest thing to do for the next 30 days, you can start what I call a 30-day satiation challenge. And what that is, at the end of the day, write down 3 things that felt fulfilling in your day. Not that gave you gratitude, but that literally viscerally in your body felt fulfilling. Sometimes it's a great workout, or nailing a client project, or having a meaningful conversation like you, Tiff, will make my list tonight, right? Because I love meaningful conversations, right? Make a list, and for 30 days, just track what brings you a sense of satisfaction and satiation and fulfillment. Don't analyze it. After 30 days, go back in one sitting, read through it all, and start to see what the patterns are. And you'll start to recognize you actually know how to build wealth in your life without adding one more dollar to your bank account.
I love all of what you just said, and there's so much to unpack there. First of all, I love how you said to just take stock of where you are now. What is your current situation in all of these areas? Because one thing that I've noticed is sometimes we feel like life is, spiraling out of control or, going crazy. But when we really actually sit down and think about it, we're like, it's not too bad, and so having that visual internal cue, and seeing where you are with everything. I feel like that is genius. And then also, I love how you talked about the difference between satiation, am I saying that right?
Satiation.
And satiation and gratitude, because I can completely see how those two are two different things. And a lot of people do the gratitude journals and I'm thankful for this and so on and so forth. But now you can add that extra step and say, okay, what actually gave me satisfaction today? And I'm like, I want to start implementing that immediately. I love that idea.
Yeah. Well, here's the reality. This is why it's so radical and revolutionary, is that the reality is we do have scarcity brains, right? There's been books written about this, and it's because we are wired to seek, because that is how we survive. Think of it, we're wired to seek calories and shelter and safety, right? If you and I are having this conversation, it's because our ancestors figured out how to survive and we're here today. So thank you, ancestors, for doing that, right? But how do you offset kind of the financial monkey mind that is always forecasting and worrying and analyzing? I mean, it's exhausting. We all feel it. It's not about changing your mindset. That is helpful, but your body has a role to play to help your mind chill out. So the more your body feels satiated and helps you literally consume moments of satisfaction and moments of meaning. And I tell people, Tiff, swallow after you've had a moment of fulfillment, of satiation. Watch that moment travel through all of your body, awaken all of your cells to be like, yes, in this moment, I have enough, I am enough, we are enough, right? You're telling your body this. Your body has a role to help your financial monkey mind relax for a moment, right? Because the mind, when it's overworked and overstimulated and overconcerned, it makes impulsive decisions. That's why we talk about our financial life is very emotional, right? And it's impulsive. And there's a thing called behavioral finance where our habits and behaviors really do impact our financial success. The way to help your mind not always act out of impulse and concern is to help your body balance it out. And that's the big piece here, is that the way to work with the scarcity mind is not try to like bend it into compliance, right? We all know that doesn't work. It's to let it relax for a moment and be like, oh, I can counteract scarcity with a feeling of enoughness, a feeling of satiation. That's the power of enough.
Yes, I love that. Like this conversation, I love it already. I'm like, I already know the audience is going to love it when I release. But I also wanted to get into your book because you wrote a book about this. And I just wanted the audience to learn a little more about that and also what else you go over in the book.
Yeah. So the book is called The Power of Enough, Finding Joy in Your Relationship to Money. You know, there was a little kind of like nuance there because I do think we can find joy in our relationship to money. You know, I'm a financial advisor and an investment manager. So I work every day with people in their conversations with money, with investment strategies. You know, I'm tracking how the market's doing today and I have to kind of manage emotions around that. And so what's really important though is that the book doesn't go into investment strategies. What the book does is it takes you on a journey to understand what is at the core of your relationship to money, why money and wealth are different things. How can you have a healthier relationship to money? So it's not about pushing money away, but really taking it under your wing and saying, okay, we're in an arranged marriage. Let's figure this out, right? It's like, we got to sit down and talk. We got to know each other. But what are you? How do you work? So that money can be a friend, a mirror, a guide in our creation of a wealth portfolio that's diversified, not just in financial stability, but it's diversified by meeting and having strategies that meet all of our human needs. So the book is a journey, right? It's peppered with little mini moments and questions. And the other thing too, I wrote it, Tiff. I mean, this is like a 10-year journey of writing this book, right? And I wrote it because money is still one of the biggest social taboos. We don't talk enough about it. And I wrote this book to give people entry points into having conversations about wealth and money in a way that did not require numbers. Because as soon as you bring numbers into the conversation, we go into comparison mode. Do you have more than me? More income, more debt, more what? Do I feel better? Do I feel worse? Right? And that just kind of, we shut down when we start to compare. But if we start to talk about money and wealth more rooted in our stories, you know, what was your family story with money and wealth? What worked? What didn't work? You know, when were they resilient? When did they make mistakes? We just start to kind of have a richer conversation about it.
Yes, I completely agree. And you know the saying, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
And in this day and age with social
Yes.
media, with, everything that's going on culture wise, it gets you to constantly be comparing yourself to people.
Yeah.
So I love that you actually address that in the book and then take a step back and say, hey, this is how we can kind of combat what you're being bombarded with on a daily basis, like hourly, minute by minute basis, and how to find more enjoyment with your money and with yourself. So I love that, Elizabeth. And I can sit here and talk to you forever, but we don't have enough time. So if people are interested in learning more about you, finding out more about the book, where could they find you?
So the easiest place is to go to my website. It's Elizabeth Husserl, HUSSERL.com. There's a ton of free resources, exercise from the book that you can download, different podcasts. And then you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Elizabeth Husserl, and I'm often posting different ideas, little nuggets, because if anything, I'm going to reframe and say this was just enough time, this conversation, Tiff, to make one change in how you define wealth, how you experience wealth, how you think about your relationship to money. It only takes a moment of integration to experience something new. So I think this was a perfect amount of conversation.
For sure. Because if they just take one, like let's say for instance, it's just starting the satiation journal every day, that one step can change your entire trajectory. And that's only one of the gems that we dropped on this episode. So just imagine how much work can be done just taking one step at a time. So thank you so much, Elizabeth. And y'all, I'll make sure that I have all of Elizabeth's information in the show notes. So make sure you check that out. It was such a pleasure talking with you today.
Oh, thank you, Tiff. Such a pleasure to be here. Happy to come back anytime.
Yes, for sure. Bye.
Thank you for listening, joining, and being a part of the Money Talk with Tiff podcast this week. You can check Tiff out every Thursday for a new Money Talk podcast. But if you just can't wait until next week, you can listen to previous podcast episodes at moneytalkwitht.com or follow Tiff on all social media platforms at Money Talk with T. Until next time, spend wise by spending less than you make. A word to the money wise is always sufficient.